Well, good morning, Louisiana, and hello, and welcome to Dattitude, as we have episode number 155 for you on this Thursday morning. Jim Derry along with Jeff Duncan here to talk about, well, you know we're going to talk about LSU Wake Forest Saints. In fact, let me show you what our subjects are today. Beloso's bomb, how about that? Big 3-run jack in the third inning, made it 5-2. Who knew there wouldn't be another run scored in the game? The bullpen was phenomenal. LSU, remember when LSU fans were saying, wow, our bullpen stinks. It's really not any good. We're not going to win the national championship because our bullpen stinks. Well, it's not too bad. Paul Skenes coming up tonight, and then we're going to talk some Saints today. Saints on vacation, just 4 weeks away from the start of training camp, which means that Jeff Duncan just doesn't get any time off. What's going on?
Not much. Yeah, you're right. We had that news today. Saints camp starts July 24th. First practice is July 26th. I'm sure the dates and times as far as which practices will be open to the public, that'll come at a later date from the team. But, yeah, it's not far away. And meantime, we got sports like, the College World Series to carry us over.
Well, I think it's carrying people over pretty well. I mean, we wondered if LSU would be able to, dunk after they lost on Monday. Obviously in a must-win situation after that. If they can win tonight and beat Wake Forest and get the championship round, they're back to they're not in a must-win situation. I mean, you want to win, obviously, when you get to the championship round, but you go back to best 2 of 3, and, it's kind of apropos, I guess you could say, because the Tigers have been kind of all over the map, and now they're doing it with pitching. I kind of joked in the open about, people wowing about how that's all I heard. The bullpen sucks. This team can't win anything because this bullpen can't win it. If Paul Skenes isn't pitching, this team can't win a big game. Well, they're proving them wrong.
Yeah, I told some friends last night that I think Cade Beloso won the national championship with that 3-run home run. I really feel like that's all it took. Once they got that big lead, Wake Forest, watching that game, I'm not a huge college baseball observer, but what I do know is body language and momentum and intangibles, and you could just see it. I mean, Wake Forest played tentative. They batted tentatively. They pitched tentatively. And LSU played like a team that was just much more aggressive. I mean, they were more aggressive at the plate. They were more aggressive pitching, and they deserved to win that. And I think the specter of Paul Skenes just weighed on Wake Forest. They knew if they lost that game, they had to face the best pitcher in college baseball. I've not been impressed with Wake Forest at all. I'm not taking anything away from LSU, but obviously Florida waits whoever wins this game. But I think the momentum that LSU will have going into that is going to carry them, and I feel like they've got a great shot to win another title.
Well, here's what worries me as someone who went to LSU. What worries me is you go through this fight like hell thing, and then it would be easy. I don't think they're going to do this, but it would be easy to do this, is to say, okay, we got the Skenes. We're so sure we're going to win now. Don't rest on your laurels, because you think Paul Skenes is coming in, you're going to win the game. You still got to get in there and hit the ball and do your thing. You also have to remember that Paul Skenes is coming in on what's not normal rest. This is normal rest for a major leaguer, but it's not normal rest for a college pitcher. So to be able to come in off of pitching 125 pitches, you're going to have to figure things out.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Look, this guy's a little bit different cat. He's the best pitcher college baseball's seen since Steven Strasburg. I think they wax Wake Forest tonight. I don't have any doubt they're going to move on. Now, how they handle Florida, who's been rested and waiting, we'll see. I think Florida has the bats that can match LSU.
So you're hold on. You're already gone past this game. You're writing this game off.
When Wake Forest had a chance, they had a chance early in that game last night. They were up 2-0, had LSU a little bit on the ropes. Mentally, I think if they get 4 runs or something, that puts a lot of pressure on LSU. They were up there trying to get walks, JD. You don't win national championships trying to walk. You get up there, you get aggressive. The alpha mentality was what LSU exhibited. They were up there swinging the bats, trying to win the game. looked to me like Wake Forest was trying to hang on. And you can't win that way. I think losing that game, it's all it took. Now they've got to face the best pitcher in college baseball. I think they're done.
I agree with almost everything you said, but I just want everyone, I want to remind our audience that I'm Jim Derry and he's Jeff Duncan. And if you go put all your money on LSU at minus 155, because they're not that big of a favorite, and they're still playing the number one team in the country. I agree with you that Wake Forest played very tentatively, which is kind of surprising. We all know Tom Walter, right? If the former UNO coach who leads Wake Forest, and it's great to see him in this position. I would be shocked if Wake Forest doesn't come with their A game tonight and play the complete opposite of what they played last night. That doesn't mean to say I think they're going to hit Paul Skenes, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to be laying back on their heels. They're going to let everything fly. They got a little bit of swag too. So
look, they got
Louder. Anything but a fait accompli.
Yeah, look, Louder's a top 20 pick in the Major League Baseball draft too. So it should be
correct.
Shapes up as a great pitching duel. And I guess the best shot Wake Forest would have is if Louder's lights out, can control LSU's bats, and they get into the bullpen late. That's the only chance I think Wake Forest has, is to get past Skenes. And I'll be surprised. I mean, LSU's aggressiveness at the plate, I know they strike out a lot, but that's how you got to play. You got to go. You got to win a title. You can't get up there and hope the other team walks you and loses. And that's what I saw at Wake Forest. They looked to me like they were just trying to hang on and God forbid, get this Paul Skenes. It's not how you win a title. And I think LSU won that game because they were the more aggressive team. Their backs were to the wall, and they came and took it. And I don't see how Wake Forest recovers.
It's always harder to win a championship when you're not used to being in the situation. And now I know I get the whole these players necessarily haven't been for LSU in this situation, and they haven't won a championship since 2009. They haven't been in this game since 2017. But these players they went to LSU because all they've heard their entire life is LSU goes to national. LSU is like the Alabama in football, right? I mean, that's what this program is. That's what they're used to doing. So Wake Forest is far from that. So you could see the mindset, but that being said, this team still has to hit. I have not seen a consistent level of hitting, which I never thought I would say from this team. I thought they would hit anybody, and they haven't been able to. And if you look at the scores here, 6-3, they lost 3-2. Then they won 5-0, 5-2. Now, 5 runs is great in the grand scheme of things, but this is a team that's used to scoring 10 runs. So they're scoring about half of their normal output. And if yesterday, if Beloso doesn't hit that 3-run bomb where he says he was trying to hit a sac fly to center, I mean, this could be a completely different series. So they've got to get the bats going. And again, you're going against a tough pitcher. You talk about probably a top 3 pick as well, along with Skenes and Dylan Cruz. It's no gimme. They got to get in this thing from the get-go.
Well, look, I think the park itself lends it's a big park. Traditionally it's hard to hit the ball out of the park there. And when the wind's blowing in like it has been, you're not going to get it out. I mean, unless you go down the line. So I understand why the scores are down because, the way the park and the configuration and the way the wind's been blowing, LSU's kind of plays guerrilla ball with some of
there's
those
no question about that.
And that's just, you have to manufacture runs in this park. So it doesn't surprise me. We'll see tonight the strategy the teams have at understanding that these 2 dominant pitchers are out there. Are they going to try and play small ball, bunt, move people along, try and get just a run here or there, knowing these guys probably aren't going to give up, a lot of runs.
Jim Derry along with Jeff Duncan, and we are going to spend about half the show this morning talking about LSU Wake Forest, and then we're going to talk about the Saints because I definitely want to get into that. We didn't talk about it at all yesterday, and I'm about to go on vacation, as I like to brag when it happens, because I don't get many. So, I'm a grandpa now, Dunk, by the way.
Saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's when you really start feeling old, when your kids have a kid. I mean, you really start feeling old. So,
are you going anywhere on vacation?
No, you know what? It's the first time in a while. We usually go to the beach or go visit our family in Panama City, which is the beach, or something in I'm tired, man. I think I'm just gonna. We got such a crazy fall. I got a feeling this fall is gonna be crazy for this area. I think LSU is gonna be in national championship contention. I think that the Saints are gonna be much better than a lot of pundits think they're gonna be. I think Tulane's gonna be very good again. I think it's gonna be crazy around here this fall.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's gonna be a very intriguing fall. After Tulane kind of carried the torch last year with that season
They did.
and I think everyone should be certainly LSU. I know they've got high hopes. It's like a top 5 team, and I agree with you. I didn't know what to expect from the Saints until this offseason, and being out there, seeing them. There's a lot of positive vibes. I think a lot of that is attributable to Derek Carr. There's still a lot of confidence in the building, not just in the players, but also in the coaching staff and the support staff. You can just feel it around there. Now, whether that translates to the games in the fall, we'll see. You got to win on the field. But right now, I think it's a lot more positive than it was a year ago at this time.
And I know it sounds crazy because one championship or one team playing a different sport doesn't translate to any other sport, really. By the way, if anybody wants to leave a comment or a question, we normally have a few by now. We got a good amount of viewers. No one's commenting. Feel free to comment, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. If you're on Twitter, sorry, you're out of luck. You can just get to watch. You can't leave your comments don't come through to us if you're on Twitter. But if you're on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment. We'll read it and show it on the air. I don't think necessarily that one, this baseball team can translate, but I think as far as momentum wise, I think teams feed off of each other. If LSU were to win a national championship, I know Jaden Daniels doesn't play baseball, but I think a baseball championship could kickstart the LSU football team and say, this whole school, this program, this is why we came to Baton Rouge, because we think we can be dominant.
Well, look, Scott Woodward, we have to credit him, right? I mean,
absolutely.
The job he's done as AD, winning, they won a national championship in women's basketball already. The baseball team's still alive.
I didn't even mention that. Yep.
Yeah, they still have a chance to win a national title. The gymnastics was in the Final Four, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been an incredible run, and I think it's only going to continue to ascend under Scott Woodward. The job he's done and making these big name hires, putting established winners in charge of the main programs there. We're, I think, on the cusp of really a golden era for LSU athletics.
We're going to have to get Scott Woodward on this show. You and I are going to have, we had Mickey on Mickey Loomis on the show last year. We're going to have to find a way to get Scott Woodward on the show. Maybe reach out to LSU and see if he'll do it. But that would be a fun one. I'd love to pick his brain, because what he's done is he's, I think Skip did a really good job, but it's kind of the last 10 years have changed so much, I think, in college athletics, Dunk. And what LSU has been able to do to kind of transform themselves to be a part of everything now. It's obviously not just football. They've always been good in baseball, but they have kind of transformed themselves and always been good in track. It's just a program. I mean, they're good in everything now.
Well, look, I think you have to credit Scott Woodward. I mean, he understands that these big programs now, they're really kind of big businesses. They're almost Fortune 500 companies unto themselves. And you have to hire good people to run those programs. And it shows, he goes out and gets Jay Johnson, a guy from Arizona. I don't think a lot of people knew about him when he came in here. Certainly Brian Kelly was kind of an out-of-the-box hire from Notre Dame. I don't think a lot of people knew a lot about Brian Kelly when he came in. He was expanded, I think, the search.
Kim Mulkey.
Right. Well, people knew about Kim Mulkey, but I'm just saying, like, he's going out getting good people. It reminds me a lot of, like, Tom Jurich when he was at Louisville, my alma mater. He always had a working list of who he was going to hire if he had to make a hire, and he cultivated that constantly. And you can just tell Scott Woodward is like that. He's getting good people to run these programs, not worried about, is he a former LSU person? Just get the best person. That's really what you have to do to run these big athletic programs these days, as competitive as it is in college sports. Like you said, it's changed. The landscape's changed. And I think they've got a really good grasp on NIL now. And he told me this not too long ago, that LSU baseball was going to take off because of NIL, because of the limited scholarships that they can give in baseball. I mean, that's the worst sport as far as scholarship money, how it's divided up. I think they have about 35 or 40 players, and they only have about, 11 and a half
11.
scholarships.
Yeah, I think it's 11.
So they're really getting very little money. Now they can supplement that at LSU through the collectives, through NIL, allows them to attract top prospects that in the past they might have lost to a school like Stanford or Vanderbilt, because those schools could supplement their athletic scholarships with academic scholarships. And that was a big, I think, milestone in understanding that and being able to expand the recruiting base and be more competitive. And I think it's only going to keep going up because everyone, let's face it, LSU's baseball program is the elite program in college baseball. That atmosphere and culture that Skip Bertman started and Paul Maneri carried over, every player in the country wants to play in that environment. But it comes down sometimes to who gives you the better offer in terms of scholarship money. That's been eliminated now. So it just opens up the floodgates.
A lot of people, they don't realize that baseball has only 11 or 11 and a half scholarships, which means that most, if not all, of the players on the team, none of them have a full ride. And if they do, it's because, like Dunk said, you've combined other scholarships with your athletic scholarship. It doesn't work that way in baseball, hardly at all. Nick Brody, you have a great question. We're going to ask it when we get to the Saints portion of the show, which is going to be about another 3 or 4 minutes. Tomcat says, let's go Tigers. Again, if you want to leave a comment or question, you can do that. Dunk and I are going to be on until about 10:15 this morning. It's the last time Dunk and I will be together on the show until probably preseason, because again, the show's going to take a brief hiatus. I'm trying to have a show next week. Going back to LSU baseball, Dunk, I don't want to say that it's Dattitude that did it for him, but ever since he came on this show, I mean, the dude has been lights out bombing the baseball. I'm just saying. So I don't know if it's Dattitude magic, but ever since the dude has been on the, ever since you've come on this show, your career is kind of taken off.
Is that what it is? It's the Dattitude spike.
Your book's going to be flying through the roof. The sales are going to be incredible. I mean, I think there's Dattitude magic going on.
Hey, I'll take anything. Get that book sale. I'll take it. I mean, I just want to get it done, JD. Let me just get it done and get it on the shelves. Then I'll be satisfied.
Well, if the players can have swag, then I can have swag too. So why not? But seriously, before we go to the Saints, I do want to talk one last thing about these LSU Tigers. I know a lot of people came on to hear about LSU and Wake. And we spent our whole show on it yesterday. We have a lot of Jeff Duncan has a ton of he said go ahead and book it. He said it's so. He said these Wake Forest Deacon Demons have rolled over. They didn't want to face Paul Skenes. They were playing. If you missed it earlier, you can go back and rewind it later. But he said they were so scared of playing against Paul Skenes, they kind of played tentatively last night, and so they're just done. And so Cade Beloso's home run basically put LSU in the national championship. In fact, I think he went further. I think he said it won him the net. Did you say it won? He said Cade Beloso's home run won them the national champ. That's how far he's going. Yep. So, and look, I'd like to be as optimistic as him. I think that they still have quite a ways to go. And again, what scares me about tonight more than anything, as someone who went to LSU and have seen these sorts of things, and really not just LSU, just kind of anywhere. Like, you get to, if we can just get to that game where Paul Skenes or whoever is going to play in that game, everything's going to change. We've won it all. They cannot go in. You and I can have whatever mindset we want, but they cannot go in with the mindset that they've won this thing already.
No, but look, I mean, when you have a guy like Paul Skenes, it changes everything, man. When you have a dominant starter like him, and we're talking about like one of the rare guys in college baseball history. We're not talking about just, it just changes everything. And I don't think we've seen a guy at LSU maybe since Ben McDonald or, I just don't think there's been a guy. He threw 40 something pitches over 100 miles an hour in that game the other night. That's insanity.
Ben McDonald has the record for the most strikeouts in LSU history. By the way, somebody asked me the other day, where does Skenes rank on the all-time list? He's down there. He's like, I think in the 20s. So he's not going to hit that. He's got a ways to go. But to kind of put it in perspective, Ben McDonald has the all-time LSU record for strikeouts in a season at 202. I believe he pitched somewhere along the lines of 180 innings. Paul Skenes has exactly 200 strikeouts, which means, barring something strange and silly, he's going to break the LSU record tonight. But he's done it in fewer than 120 innings. So that just goes to show how dominating this cat has been. Also, how different college baseball is today than it used to be. Ben McDonald in the late 80s throwing 180 pitches in a college baseball season, which, by the way, is ridiculous.
Right.
And I mean, you could almost, if you did that today, Skip Bertman would be put in jail. I mean, you just can't do that to a kid's arm. But anyway, that's a whole different story. But Paul Skenes, I think it's 117 and 2/3 or something along those lines, to show you how much different college baseball is from then to now.
I think what we're watching when you watch Paul Skenes pitch is it's like what a Major League Baseball starter would look like.
I don't disagree.
I mean, this guy's going to go to he's probably going to be number one pick, Pittsburgh Pirates. I think he's going to be pitching in major leagues very quickly. He's not a guy that's going to take.
Needs to develop another pitch.
Well, the only thing that's going to really, I think, factor in here is just that major league rule, that loophole where they want to keep a guy, because they can get an extra year out of him on the back end. That's the only thing I think. He's prepared to pitch in major leagues right away. And there's only so many guys like that. Strasburg was another one you could tell. He's just not going to spend
but you see what happened to Strasburg, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with these arms. And look, Zach Ewing and I have this kind of back and forth as of late. I think that some pitchers are babied and coddled too much, which is why I think being babied and coddled is just as big of a reason of pitchers getting hurt than it is to just let them go. But that being said, you can't do anything like you used to do. I mean, I think Ben McDonald, I remember one game where he made like 180 pitches, and then he came back like 3 days later. You just can't do that to kids anymore. I don't care how hard or how soft they throw. It just doesn't make a difference. You can't do that anymore. And really no one does. So, I mean, it's not really that big of an issue. But, it's going to be interesting if LSU does win this game. When can you bring him back? I mean, theoretically, you're going to – if LSU were to win this game and then lose game one of the championship round, I'm going to be so tempted to use them on Sunday, but you can't. And then even on Monday, you're talking about 3 days of rest. Would you bring them back on in a theoretical, hypothetical game 3?
Yeah, I think you definitely consider it. I mean, it depends on how many pitches he throws tonight.
Yeah.
How much, look, if somehow LSU got a big lead early, would you think about taking him out?
Oh, absolutely, you would.
Yeah, there's lots of strategy would go into that. I don't think that's going to happen because I think these two pitchers,
I don't either.
It's probably going to be a close game, low-scoring game. But, there's a lot of strategy when you start looking long-term. And he's such a unicorn.
He really is.
Help you win a title by himself. I think. Look, if Paul Skenes isn't here, LSU's not in this position. He changed everything for them coming in and being as dominant as he is.
Well, you see there on the screen what the numbers have been, and I'm trying to get an over-under for you tonight because the easy thing was, I guarantee the public's going to be all over the under, which tells me that I actually think both of these teams are going to hit a little bit better than we might think. So I think both of these starters, as good as they are, and as everyone talks about them all the time, I actually think it's going to be one of those games. The over-under is 8.5. So you got to lay 120 to win 100 to bet the under. So you can bet your sweet Bippy that Aunt Mabel and Drunk Joe are going to be all over the under 8.5. I actually think it's going to be over. I think the bat's going to be working, and I think that both teams might be a little bit desperate tonight. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I'm going to take the over.
I like it, man. Zigging while everybody else is zagging. That's
what you got to do in the world of betting, my friend.
Exactly, man. I mean, be a little counterintuitive there. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I know the other night everyone was on the over, and that thing went way under. And again, I think a lot of it comes down to just the way the wind blows. I know it sounds crazy, but
yeah,
in that park when it's blowing in. I mean, we saw, I think it was Dylan Cruz or somebody on LSU just crushed one, and that thing didn't even make it to the warning track, in center field. So
it changed last night a little bit. So I think it's something to look for. It's already, instead of blowing straight in, it was kind of a left to right. It was still helping keep the ball in the park if you hit one, deep to center or whatever. But I think it's a little bit different. And if it's changing now, probably going to keep on changing. I know that our weather here in South Louisiana is changing. That heat dome finally moved because that high pressure system and wind kind of blows, as I'm being Nash Roberts and Bob Breck here this morning.
Yeah, where are you going here?
I'm just saying that the wind blows around those high pressure systems. And I think that's why the wind had been blowing in consistently, because that heat dome had been sitting over us. And so as it shifts, again, in my weatherman moment, I always said I should have been a weatherman. As it shifts, the weather's going to shift with it as well. The wind's going to blow in a different direction tonight. We're going to get more on that. Zach Ewing is going to be Bayou Bets this afternoon. He's going to be live at the field, Charles Schwab Field, this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We're going to be back here on all these same channels, these social media channels. Yeah. So
Zach's in Omaha?
He is. He's been in Omaha for a week now. So he'll be able to tell us exactly what the wind is doing when we talk to him this afternoon at 4. All right. So you know what? We'll just go in our predictions. You've already made yours. Obviously, you think LSU is going to have no trouble. Give me a final score, Nostradamus.
I'll go like 3-1. I think it'll be low scoring. I'm against your counterintuitive thing, but but I just don't see Wake Forest coming back. I just think they lost that game in the early. They lost any hope they had in the early innings last night, and their body language, the way LSU played more aggressively, they looked like the team that wanted to win. Wake Forest looked like a team trying to hang on. I don't think they can get past Skenes.
Tomcat says he predicts some kind of celebration. I think there's a good chance of that, whether it'd be purple and gold or black and gold. I think there's a good chance. All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to predict. I've only made predictions on 2 games thus far. Okay. The first game I said that I think was it LSU, and it was LSU Wake the first time on Monday. I made a prediction, and I said that LSU was going to win. I still believe that Florida and LSU are the 2 best teams in the College World Series. I truly believe, no matter what happens tonight, I still think that Florida and LSU, even if Wake Forest wins this game tonight, unless they just do something that blows me away, I'm kind of with Dunk on. I've been underwhelmed by Wake from the get-go. Before this College World Series even started, I've been underwhelmed by Wake Forest. So I'm not saying anything I haven't said before. So that being said, though, I said LSU would win on Monday, and they lost. So then I said Wake Forest would win yesterday because I just thought I thought it was going to be a super high scoring game, by the way. I thought it was going to be like 8-6. And it looked like it was going to be that way when it's 5-2. So you know what? Since I was wrong the first 2 times, let's hope I'm wrong again. I have this, weird feeling that I think both of these starting pitchers who are supposed to be top-notch, grade A, first 3 picks of the draft kind of guys, I think they're going to get knocked around a little bit. I don't think either one of them's used to pitching on 4 days rest, which is what they have. And so I'm not saying they're going to give up 5 runs each, but I think they're going to give up more than they're used to, and I don't think either one of them is going to be as dominant as they used to be. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be like 5 to, let's make it 6-4. And I'm going to predict Wake Forest. Again, I think it's truly 50-50. So I'm just going to keep in line and hoping I'm wrong. I have no idea and I'm being totally honest. I'm not going to bet this game. I wouldn't bet this game with Jeff Duncan's money. I am going to bet the over, but I'm not going to bet on a team on either side. It's truly 50-50. So just to be in theme and hoping I'm wrong again, I'm going to say Wake Forest is going to win 6-4. How's that for Jedi mind trick?
You kind of talked yourself into that somehow in the course of that. I
just don't know. I don't feel as confident as a lot of LSU people do. I mean, it's just like I said. I know it sounds like it should be easy. Okay, you got the Paul Skenes, but they got a really good pitcher too. I just haven't seen when I've watched Wake. I don't see a
a solid approach at the plate by their batters. I mean, they're swinging at really bad pitches. They come. What I saw last night, with coming up, taking good pitches, and then getting behind, and then swinging at bad.
I think that was nerves more than just the way they play, though.
They play tight, and you can't play that way. Any sport. You talk to like Sean Payton. He wants his players playing loose, aggressive. I remember the Rick Pitino mentality was he wanted guys shooting if they're open. In the title game, don't be tight. You're not going to hit the shot if you're thinking. You've got to go in aggressive. I didn't see that from Wake Forest. Maybe they change up tonight.
Maybe.
Let's face it, you got to. But just that mentality after losing that game, I think, is going to be tough to bounce back.
I also think there's a different mentality, especially for teams that aren't used to being there. There's a mentality of we got to win. We're in survival mode, which is what Wake's going to be in tonight, over a team that's not. See, if that would have been the reverse, LSU would have killed Wake Forest last night. Had LSU won on Monday and been in the situation that Wake was in, LSU would have blown that team out of the water, I think, because I think that they have the killer instinct. However, Wake Forest is not used to being in that position. So it was kind of like,
look, these LSU guys aren't either. I mean, none of them have been here before.
Yeah, but their mindset is that the program is, and
but
people keep saying it doesn't make a difference. I disagree.
What Ben McDonald did didn't going to transfer over to these guys. I don't
agree.
I think it's instilled by the head coach, by the manager, by the culture of the coach, and I think they were just more aggressive. That's just a mindset that you adopt, and I really believe. You could just see it. There was a little more of an alpha attitude, and I didn't see it at all from Wake Forest.
Let me ask you this question: if Alabama goes the next 2 seasons without winning a national championship, let's say 3 seasons without winning a national championship, you don't think that those Alabama football players 3 seasons from now, or whatever, who will by then have never won a national championship, you don't think there's a little extra swag because they're Alabama?
Well, I think that's a little different. I
don't. I mean, LSU's the Alabama of baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think the players get it from, I think, the culture that's been fostered by the environment they're in. And I think it has more to do with Jay John. I mean, I don't think necessarily LSU had it under Paul Maneri. I never saw that kind of attitude.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but
so there was still LSU baseball, but it wasn't the same. And I think
but you should know that as well.
If Sean Payton were coaching Wake Forest last night, they would have been much more aggressive, I guess.
You should know as well as anybody. Louisville under Rick Pitino, they didn't win the national championship every year, but they had swag because they had Rick Pitino and they were Louisville. I mean, there's basketball and Louisville go together.
3 games last year, basketball.
Well, I know, but they didn't have the players last year. They need to make wholesale changes. But what I'm saying is when that program gets back to the mountaintop, they're going to be dominating again because those kids are going to believe. So I'm just saying that it's 2 different programs, a team that expects to be here and is used to being here, as to one that I'm not going to say Wake Forest is surprised that they're here, but they might be in the back of their minds. They never probably really expected to be in this boat 1 win away from playing in the championship round of the College World Series.
Yeah, look, I think you have to just credit Jay Johnson, and I think look,
I don't disagree with that.
You also got some great players.
Although he made some boneheaded calls last night. I don't know what he was thinking, trying to bunt Trey Morgan last night. That's I appreciate what he's done for this team, but trying to bunt with Trey Morgan, which changed the entire offense, and they hit into a double play after that. That, to me, they could have broke that game open right there, and you seize the momentum, you seize it by the junk or whatever you want to call it, and you go forward. And he didn't do that at all. Playing small ball, and I get that's part, but that was one of the dumbest baseball calls I've seen in a long time, trying to bunt with one of your best hitters, the guy who has more extra base hits in this postseason than anyone, Trey Morgan, and you're going to bunt him with a man on first and second because you don't trust them to get a base hit. That made no sense to me whatsoever.
And look,
I agree with throw that out there.
I agree with the announcers. Do people not practice bunting anymore in college baseball?
They really don't.
Anybody put down a good bunt really so far. It's been a bunch of pop-ups and bad fundamentals. But
not to interrupt you, but they've tried that. I remember they've tried about 7 sacrifice bunts in this series, and they've been successful on one of them. It's time to stop doing it. If they don't know, and I say this all the time, you try to make players do things that they don't know how to do and haven't practiced enough. It's a great in theory, and I understand what you're trying to do. But if they don't know how to do it and they have a better chance to hit the ball than to sacrifice kids over a base, then just let them hit the ball or walk. I mean, they got a better chance to walk or hit the ball than for you to try to bunt them over because they don't know how to do it. You obviously don't practice it enough. That's not on you. I mean, kids just don't want to bunt anymore. It doesn't work. But don't try to force something that isn't there. So I appreciate what Jay Johnson has done, and I think he's done an excellent job. He's obviously a fantastic recruiter, and he's brought kids to this program that wouldn't have been here, including Paul Skenes, by the way. But you can't make kids do something they don't know how to do, and that's what he tried to do with Trey Morgan last night. Because there's very few things that Trey Morgan doesn't know how to do.
The game was over when they hit that 3-run home run. They didn't need any more runs. Wake Forest, it was a knockout punch.
All right,
well, over.
You still don't give them away.
Throw the white towel in from the dugout. Get on to this next game. They were never going to win that game.
All right. Dunk thinks that the LSU Tigers won the national championship. I am 50-50 on tonight. And then I guarantee you, look, they get to Florida. I'm not saying Florida's going to win the national championship, but let's just say that Florida is thrilled that these teams have to play again tonight, and thrilled that they probably don't have to play Paul Skenes and until a potential game 3. You worry about games 1 and 2 first. We're going to move on to the Saints and spend a little time because I do want to end the show in about 10 minutes or so. So that gives us a lot less time than I hope for. But switching over to the Saints, and we do have a question from earlier. Nick Brody wants to ask. He tells us we have a great show. Thanks, Nick. Will Michael Thomas ever be the same again?
It's a good question. I mean, we're going to find out. I mean, the list of 30-something-year-old receivers that come back after having the injuries he's had is probably a very short one. But I will say this. The one thing I think that works in Mike Thomas's favor is that he's not and never was a speed guy. It's not about his ability to run past people.
Yep.
He wins at the line of scrimmage with his physicality, his great hands, his ability to make contested catches. And that's, I think, what would be a reason for optimism for him coming back. Here's the other thing I would say about him. We're going to get the best version of Mike Thomas you've ever seen this season because he's on a 1-year deal. He had to take a massive pay cut. He hasn't played in 3 years. If he wants to get paid again at any kind of level of compensation, he has to produce this year. That's why you're going to see him be walk the line in press conferences. You're going to hear this team attitude, all this positivity out of him. He has to because he has to get paid again after what's happened the last 3 years. So we're going to get Mike Thomas at his best this season, I think, on and off the field. And then if he gets paid again, all bets are off. But I think this year he has to keep his nose clean and he has to produce.
Jim Derry, Jeff Duncan on Dattitude, Thursday edition. Dunk's got something going on tomorrow. And I have a few Friday things going on. So
Manning Passing Academy, man.
Manning Passing Academy. I'd forgotten what it was, so I just didn't want to throw it out there. What next great quarterback studded is going to be out at the Manning Passing Academy this time?
Well, Drake May, who'll probably be a top 10 pick from North
Caleb
Carolina.
Williams out there?
Yeah, they did not get Caleb Williams from Southern Cal. And I think this is something that's interesting to watch going forward with NIL and it becoming a business. Will that impact the Manning Passing Academy's ability to recruit these top quarterbacks? They've always been able to get the top guys in the past. Caleb Williams had so much other stuff going on with his business ventures that he couldn't come to this. I think it's a mistake. I think you cancel anything else. You got a chance to be at the MPA and sponge off Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. You do it. You don't worry about the other things. You reschedule. But we'll see if this is maybe a trend going forward. But they usually get the top guys, and they got most of them again this year, except for Drake May. Bo Nix from Oregon's not going to be there. That was another surprise.
What about Arch Manning? He's going to be there, right?
Of course, Arch Manning. So two schools, JD, have two quarterbacks there. Usually they just have one. Two schools in the country. Guess which ones they are?
Texas.
Correct.
And LSU.
Correct.
Yeah.
Only two. So Nussmeier is going to be there along with Jaden Daniels.
I'm surprised LSU would want to have two guys there. Look, I know you're friends with all the Mannings and you're super tight with them and all that stuff, but the Mannings are not the biggest friends of LSU. I'm just going to say that.
What does that mean? Where do you
They were never going to let Arch Manning go to LSU.
What are you talking about? If he wanted to go to LSU, he would have gone to LSU.
Never going to let – they're so – they hate LSU.
No. I've never heard any of them say anything bad.
Archie went to Ole Miss. It'd be like,
He's from.
It'd be like my kids liking Tulane.
They have nothing against LSU. I've never heard them say anything bad about it. That's just something that's been – they're just going with it. They think the best situation. I mean, Arch didn't go to Ole Miss.
Did Peyton, Cooper, or Eli ever even consider LSU?
Well, you got to remember when they came out, like LSU's program was not gangbusters back then. They were going to the best opportunity that they had back then. And
so that's a no then.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You just go to where you're going to go, where you're best. I mean, this isn't like
Arch didn't consider LSU. They're national.
They did.
They have a better chance of national championship than Texas does.
He visited LSU. He was down there a lot. He liked LSU. He liked Texas better.
I hope he likes losing because that team going in the SEC, it's gonna be a whole new world for that team.
You know, don't underestimate Texas. I mean, that's a big time program.
They're no better than Texas A&M. Who has been average, who has been mediocre at best since they've joined the SEC.
We'll see. I mean, there are a lot of resources at Texas. I think it's underperformed. There's a reason the SEC wanted Texas. You know what I mean?
And it hurts me because I grew up, there's no question that growing up, my favorite player was number 8. I mean, there's zero question. I mean, I probably grew up with a number 8 jersey on my back. But, and when they traded him, I actually cried, like a baby cried. They Bum Phillips traded Archie Manning. This is ridiculous. So, but I'm just saying, there's no love lost for LSU.
I'm telling you, they don't care about that. Trust me. I've never heard them say that. I don't know where that's coming from.
All right, I'm just saying.
Just because they don't go to school there doesn't mean they don't like it. Just picking a better spot. Does that mean
I don't like Ole Miss? I'll tell you right now, I don't like Ole Miss. They're Ole Miss and Alabama. There are two places. If either of my kids choose, because he's not going to college, obviously. If either of the other two kids choose Ole Miss or Alabama, that's on them. They could be the captain of the softball team. I ain't wearing that gear. I'm not wearing Ole Miss gear, and I ain't wearing Alabama gear. It ain't happening.
You're different than they are. You're not the same person.
I'm like most people around here.
I just think
you grew up in South Louisiana, you don't go to Ole Miss and you don't go to Alabama. That's something.
Well, Walker Howard's dad played quarterback at LSU. Was a legacy recruit. Where's he at?
Well, he got tired of realizing he was going to sit on the bench at LSU.
Well, I mean,
you do whatever you got to do.
That's just the way of the world now. Is like college football with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's a business decision for these
guys. This is a whole different story, but I can't start. I'm just going to take my ball and go somewhere else. I'm not talking about just Walker Howard. I'm talking about a lot of players. That bothers me. That's a whole different show. And again, I'm not saying they don't have the right to do that. But they look like little wah babies when they do that.
Look, I mean, I don't have a problem with guys looking for the best fit. I mean, I think Jaden Daniels is a prime example.
It wasn't because he wasn't starting. It's the ones to me that it's different if you're looking out for the best thing of your career, but it's different if you go to, I couldn't wait to go to LSU. All this smoke and not just LSU, anywhere really. You could say Alabama, it doesn't matter. I couldn't wait my whole life. I'm going to Alabama. I couldn't wait. That's all I talked about for 4 years in high school because I covered him in high school. Not him per se. I'm just talking about the average Joe player. And then they get to Alabama. They're not playing. Oh, I'm just going to go to somewhere else. And 3 years from now, they end up at like Jacksonville State.
Well, look at a guy like Bo Nix. Like he was a legacy recruit at Auburn.
He'll never be anything in the pros.
And he's turned out well at Oregon.
He'll never be anything in the pros. Yeah, I don't disagree that it's a better fit for him. But there's a perfect example. Bo Nix will never be a good NFL quarterback ever. That's a whole different story. Well, these are things we should talk about in the summer because we still got to talk about the Saints here. And Jim Derry's kind of being Jim Derry right here. I don't know what fuse you lit, but I'm trying not to be that guy anymore. I'm trying to be new and improved. I want to talk about these New Orleans Saints for the last 5 minutes of this show. On vacation now. Tell me what do these guys do? I guess they scatter. When do they have to come back? I guess they don't have to do anything team related at all until they come back for camp, right?
Yeah, they report July 24th. They're going to be back for that.
So they basically have 32 days to do whatever they want right now.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Tyrann Mathieu told me he was going to Nickelodeon Park with his kids, taking them there. I think this past weekend, and he and his family were going to be going over to Venice, I think, after that. And
wow.
Cam Jordan told me he and his family were going to end up over in Europe. I talked to Pete Carmichael, who said, he's basically a baseball dad, so he's following his kids to baseball, as a lot of parents are this time of year, all over the country to tournaments. Same thing with Mike Parrington, the director of pro personnel. I think he was going to Pigeon Forge, which has a huge baseball park, and for some tournaments. This is the only time these guys get a chance to get away. So most of them just try to get completely away and forget about football, because once the season starts in late July, you show up for camp. I mean, it's a grind till at least January, often into February.
I love the ones who go and just want to be dads. It's the only chance they really get to be regular dads, because they're off doing football the rest of the time. They have one day off during the week during football. Here's a hater for you. You ready for a hater comment?
Yeah.
Gil Ariano, I guess is how you pronounce it. Derek Carr will fold in the red zone. Enjoy him.
I've heard that a lot from people.
You believe
Raiders fans saying not good in the red zone. We're going to find out, I think, a lot. Look, I would say this. I mean, he's impressed me a lot so far, but I'm not jumping completely on board because I remember a year ago, man, I can still remember it. People raving over Jameis Winston at this time of year, going berserk about him in 7-on-7 drills, talking about he had LASIK surgery and could see better. I can go back and find the headlines.
Wow.
This is what happens in June. People get carried away with hope and optimism. And I really believe the Falcons are going to be a lot better. I think the Panthers are going to be better. This kid, Bryce Young, I think is going to be special. So I don't think it's going to be a waltz in that division. And I'm also got some concerns we haven't seen yet. You can't go out and evaluate these practices when they're playing basically patty cake along the line of scrimmage. Nobody's in pads. Cam Jordan talked about this the other day in the locker room. He's like, we can't touch the quarterback. So there's no way to evaluate. I mean, it's easy to sit back there if you know you're not going to get hit and just throw the ball. This isn't football. So we'll have a better feel for these Saints, I think, once they start putting the pads on in camp, we see these guys get after it.
There are a lot of haters out there. I mean, it completely boggles my mind before you even see a guy in a uniform, because what he may or may not have done with his former team. I've said this over and over again. I'm not saying the Saints have a great offensive line, because they've ranked in the bottom 8 or 10 last year for sure. Now they've had injuries at the wazoo, so we don't know how much it's going to affect their ranking if they stay healthy. But Derek Carr, I'm not saying, look, Drew Brees is gone. He's never coming back. I don't know how many times I have to say that, because you do have to keep saying it. But he's the closest thing that this franchise has had to a Drew Brees since Drew Brees was gone. In fact, I'll take away the last 2 years of Drew Brees' career, because he should have retired 2 years before he did. That's a whole nother story. But Derek Carr is a real legit top 10 or top 12 quarterback with a chance to be top 8 or top 6 if the offensive line holds up. And you cannot compare him to a Jameis Winston or especially an Andy Dalton, who was not as good as Jameis Winston. Another story again. But I just don't understand. There's people out there hating already. I mean, they've been hating since he came over. They're just like they're hating on Dennis Allen. I mean, what this team went through last year, you can throw a lot of things on that Monday night Tampa Bay game, which changed everything. But I mean, the dude needs a chance.
Look, I think if you're a Saints fan, you should be optimistic because they've upgraded at the position. Now, how much of an upgrade, I think, remains to be seen. But I think it's clear that he's better than what they've had the last couple of years.
There's no question he's upgrade. And Gil basically, he said in another comment, it's too long to show in the air, but his mom's a Saints fan. He's a Raiders fan. So at least he admits to being a hater. So there's that. But what are the Raiders going to have now? And we're going to get into that. When we come back from vacation, we're going to be focusing on division by division previews. That is going to be part of this show. And when I get to the AFC West, which is probably going to be earlier in the previews, I mean, they have a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo who he's kind of hurt right now, isn't he?
No, not really. I mean, it's kind of what they thought. I mean, he's coming off off-season surgery. I would compare it to like Mike Thomas. He's basically had some procedures to repair some of the problems he had, and it's part of the routine that they expected. So I don't think there's anything to worry about if you're a Raiders fan.
Who's their backup quarterback?
I forget who they brought in. They brought somebody in. I'm a big Jimmy Garoppolo guy. I like him.
I do too. I don't think he's as good as Derek Carr, but I like him.
I think he can be every bit as good. I mean, in my opinion, but
it's Hoyer. Hoyer is
the Saints were going to be in the Jimmy G sweepstakes if they didn't get Derek
for sure.
Carr. That's who they were interested in. So he's the kind of guy you win with, not because of, but he's very similar to Carr in that he can run an offense. He'd step right in. There would be no drop off. And he's a winner. You just talk to people that played with him. That's what I always put a lot of stock in. And everybody believes in Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'm not sure that he's necessarily a franchise quarterback, which I think Derek Carr is. But again,
I just worry. Like, again, I'm not saying that he's not going to be good, but I always worry when a team walks away from a guy. And I don't understand why the Raiders would walk away. There's something they did not believe in. And I'm not saying they're right, but that just always gives me a little pause. It's so hard to find a good quarterback. I walk away from him.
I get what you're saying, but I think it's more of they haven't won anything with him there. But that's their own fault for having an awful offensive line the entire time he was there. They had, Darren Waller was injured half the year this year. He didn't have a ton of other receivers besides Devontae Adams, and that was only this year. Hunter Renfrow was hurt for half the year as well. So, I mean, he
had good receivers. He had Darren Waller. He had Waller.
But Waller was hurt half the year.
I know. Well, I mean, but why?
Hunter Renfrow was hurt for a lot of the year.
Josh McDaniels knows that? Why is he walking away? You think he doesn't know? I mean,
what has Josh McDaniels been successful for besides being an offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots that had Tom Brady that you could have been offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots and won? But
he knows what good quarterback play is all about. I mean, he's seen it. So I'm not saying he's right. I'm just saying, it gives me pause, man. When somebody walks away, look, the Chargers did it with Drew Brees, and they lived to regret that. It happens sometimes in the league, but I'm also always, a little leery of it because it's so hard to find those guys. So,
I'm just saying that I'm not giving Dennis Allen any credit, but I'm also not as against him as a lot of Saints fans are. I think the door is open. He can still have a great career as a head coach. He's got a lot to prove. Josh McDaniel is in the same boat. He hasn't shown me a damn thing. I mean, at least I'm certain that Dennis Allen's a really good defensive coordinator. I'm not even sure Josh McDaniel is a good offensive coordinator because, again, when you coordinate Tom Brady, you could sit back and be in a bubble all week. Tom Brady is Tom Brady.
You can say the same thing about Pete Carmichael, though.
I do.
Yeah, I think that's a question that
I have
going to have.
Yeah, I have.
Once the season starts and people start game planning you and they start seeing tendencies and you have to adjust, I mean, you really find out how good a coaching staff is as the season goes on and people start getting a beat on what you like to do. How do you adjust? How do you adjust to injuries? All those things, I think, remain to be seen about this Saints coaching staff. I mean, they got a whole new defensive coaching staff, a lot of new moving parts to mesh on that side of the ball. I think there's some questions that, we don't know yet. And so while there is positive vibes out there, and Derek Carr certainly is an upgrade, there's still a lot of questions that have to be answered.
I agree wholeheartedly. And Gil wants to know before we close the show, because we're going to get into this. Look, it's hard to predict right now because we still have a lot of things to do, and I'm going to spend actually, part of my vacation I'm going to spend starting to work on my over-unders. I think we won 19 2 years ago, right? 19, and we tied 6 2 years ago, and I think last year we were right up on 20 or 21 and tied like 3 or 4. So we've been pretty good with our over-unders. Gil wants to know, what is a realistic expectation as we go off for the summer and then kind of close Dattitude for the summer dunk? What's a realistic expectation of a record for this New Orleans Saints team?
I think 10 wins is probably about right. What's the over-under? 9.5, I think?
It's 9 at the moment, and 9.5, and I think it's going to drop to 9 before all is said and done. But it is 9.5 at the moment.
I think just because of the schedule is so easy, they don't play a lot of elite quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The South right now, I think, is going to be better.
Right.
But, I think both those teams, Atlanta and Carolina, are better. If I were to make a bet on the NFC South, I bet Tampa comes in last. That's my.
I think that's a. You talk about Wake Forest, LSU winning the national championship, or at least winning tonight is a fait accompli. I think Tampa Bay finishing last in the NFC South is a fait accompli.
Yeah, I don't see much.
They're going to be in the running for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think they'll be looking for a new coach soon. That's my.
No, there's zero question about that.
Yeah, but I think a lot has to go right for the Saints as far as they've got to develop a pass rush. I'm a little worried about that. There's a lot of questions about their pass rush.
Yeah.
And I also think, look, it happens. Guys in their 30s drop off, and 3 of their best players are into their 30s. DeMario Davis, Cam Jordan, and Tyrann Mathieu. All 3 played well last year, but it could go south quickly when you're leaning on that many key players on your defense. But otherwise, this should be a solid defense. I think the Saints – here's the one thing I would say. I think the Saints are going to be better offensively and maybe worse defensively. And maybe a lot of people aren't thinking that right now. I think they're looking at that defense going, oh, we're top 5 defense. I think they could drop off pretty easily there, but I think they're going to be so much better on offense that it could compensate.
I'm still 5 to 6 weeks away from giving an official prediction on these New Orleans Saints. That being said, here's one prediction that you can book. You can book it. Last year, Jeff Duncan, when he polled the media, he got 27 out of 27 that took the over 7.5 wins. 27 out of 27. My bold prediction is he won't get 27 out of 27 this year. I think they're going to be predictions all over the map on this team. I think there'll still be mostly optimism, but I think at the same time there's going to be and I've been on Garland Gillen's Final Bet show with Juan Kincaid quite a few times over the summer already. And Garland's like, I don't know, man, this team burned me. It's so funny because bettors lose a bet and then they want to bet the opposite the next time. No matter what the number is, they're betting the opposite, baby. They've been burned, so they're just going to go. You just can't assume that it's going to happen again. You just don't know. So I think that you're going to have a mixed bag of predictions when you do it again this year.
Here's the thing. I think the Saints can win 10, maybe 11 games if everything breaks right and still not be that good a team. That's what I think is going to happen this year. I don't think they play very many elite teams. I do think some of these games –
really?
I think some of these games are going to be harder than people think. There's always teams that coalesce in the offseason or on the way up that you don't think about, that all of a sudden they're better than you think.
Yeah.
So I think, we'll see how it plays out. But I do think, this team could be like the 2006 Saints. Really weren't that good, but made it all the way to the NFC Championship game because they rode the emotion of that early season run. They got it. I think they started season 3-0. They really were like a 500 team after that.
Yeah. Well, what makes me nervous, and I've talked about this, I don't like – I know that this is theoretically or technically or however you want to put it, it's the 31st toughest schedule in the NFL. But by betting standards, and we went through this by over-under win totals, and I did my own formula, it's really the easiest schedule in the NFL, theoretically. That being said, they put it together in a tough way. After that Tennessee game, you're talking about 4 of 5 road games 5 of 7 and 6 of 9 or whatever. So before they come home, and they have this tough middle stretch. Not only that, they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna go 3-0. Tennessee is much better than people give them credit for. Play them at home, so you got to find a way to stop Derrick Henry. Then you're Carolina's home opener on a Monday night for Bryce Young playing his first game ever at home.
That'll be a tough game.
Then you go to Green Bay, and Green Bay is way better just because they lost Aaron Rodgers. They are way better than anybody's given them credit for. I still think they might be the best team in the division and being completely overlooked. And Jordan Love's first game as starter at home at Lambeau Field, you got to go do that. Now, at least you play him earlier in the year, but that is no picnic, any of those 3 games.
Well, you make a great point. I've made this point before. When you play teams is more important than who you're playing. In other words, you're right. You're going to play Carolina in their home opener of the season. You're going to play the Packers in their home opener. So the fans are going to be rabid for those games, excited. That makes those games tougher than they appear, than if Green Bay would have already played a whole game. So I just think I agree with you. I think this could be a more difficult schedule than people think. Now, one trend that I would say, and I know you know a lot about these kind of betting trends, if you're looking for another reason for optimism, if you're a Saints fan, and I'm going to write about this soon, the turnover ratio that was so bad a year ago, that has to turn around. I mean,
I agree.
Just it has to regress to the mean. The Saints had 14 takeaways a year ago, the fewest in the history of the franchise.
Yeah.
I think they had 7 interceptions.
Yeah, and only 3 going into week 14.
Yeah, just sheer luck is going to be better for them in that regard. And that is a big number in terms of a statistic, in terms of winning. I just think the Saints, traditionally every year up until last year, they were in the low 20s in takeaways. And then all of a sudden they just dropped off a cliff. I think that number comes back up, and it's going to be, help lead them to more wins. So there's just a lot of statistical things, I think, that lead them to probably have a better season.
I mean, one could make an argument that the best quarterback they are. I don't know that this is true or not, because I think Bryce Young and I think Jordan Love are going to be better. Bryce Young's a rookie. We don't know what he's going to get. I think Jordan Love's going to be a lot better than people think. But there could be an argument made that the best quarterback they play all season is in week 1 with Ryan Tannehill, who's not that great. He's average. He's an average quarterback. But you go down the rest of the line, people can talk about Justin Fields all they want. They have an awful offensive line, and Justin Fields has still not proven to me he can be a NFL type passer. He's got a strong arm.
Trevor Lawrence might be the guy.
Trevor Lawrence is one of them too, for sure. I don't love Trevor, but so what I'm saying is there's a bunch of mediocre to bad quarterbacks on this schedule. And it's going to be really interesting.
There's no Josh Allen.
No, there's no one in the top 10. I don't think there's anyone in the top 10 unless Matthew Stafford has some sort of revival. And when you play him in week 16, which I doubt seriously, I don't think they're going to be any good, but who knows? But it's an interesting schedule. There are no juggernauts on this schedule for sure. I don't think they're going to play anybody that, this week it's the 7-2 New Orleans Saints against the 7-2 Indianapolis Colts. I don't think it's going to, because I think Jacksonville's going to regress. They actually have a tough schedule. So anyway, it's going to be
the Lions. The Lions
time.
Could be good.
That's an Aunt Mabel, drunk Joe Q public kind of thing.
They got a lot of talent.
They don't have a quarterback.
I think Green Bay has talent everywhere. I'm not a Jordan Love guy, and the only reason I'm not, and I swear this is the only reason. I'm probably revealing too much here, but Sean Payton did not believe in Jordan Love. Remember back when they came out?
I do remember that.
A lot of people like projecting Jordan Love to the Saints, and I had an off-the-record conversation with Sean, and he goes, "We're not drafting Jordan Love." So interesting. The fact that he was,
I knew he didn't like him, but I didn't know he basically said that.
Oh yeah, he was not a fan. So just for that alone gives me pause. Now maybe they do something with him, and he's improved a lot. I will say when we were up there last year for training camp against the Packers, he was extremely athletic, and that's the way the game has gone. So, there's a chance, I think, for some more big plays out of them. But I'm interested to see how they do. I think they have a good offensive line. They have a good enough core of receivers. They don't have great receivers, but they have good receivers, and they have a really good running game. So that can take the pressure off of a quarterback that's just coming in. I still think I haven't got that far.
If it won from Minnesota's issues, Minnesota's got all kinds of issues. I really think Green Bay's still going to win the division. But again, we got a ways to go. I may pick something different when we get to it. We'll find out. All right, what are you going to do? I know you're working on your book. Is that all? You haven't taken any official vacation, have you?
No, I'm not going to have any time to take a vacation. I'm going to have to take it during the bye week, during the season. Just got too much to do on this book.
Oh, you can't at least go somewhere where it's cooler and work on your book?
Well, it's possible, but we like to collaborate between Steve and his wife, Michelle, and we do that, over at their house in Lake Vista. So it's hard to get away while we're still trying to produce chapters.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, man, I usually like to work a little bit during my vacation and find something to do, and I probably will towards the latter half as I've been off for a couple of weeks. But first week, I'm either going to the club and hopping in the pool with my kids, or I'm going to sleep. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to. I don't mind not touch a computer for a full week when I go.
That's probably smart. Just totally
get away from the computer.
Totally check out. Get off the grid.
Get off the grid. All right, LSU and Wake Forest tonight. Jeff Duncan loves the Tigers. He said Wake Forest was done as soon as Cade Beloso hit that home run. I'm 50-50. My official prediction, just so I can keep in line with my losing picks, is I picked Wake Forest to win again, solely because I've been wrong. So I'm just going to pick Wake Forest and hope I'm wrong again. Everyone enjoy the game. Thank you, Jeff Duncan, for coming on this show.
Always good to be here, bud. Have a great vacation, time off. We'll talk again when we get closer to camp.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you in about 3-4 weeks maybe. And we hope that everyone out there enjoys the rest of their summer. We're going to try to have a show with someone from LSU. I talked to Coach Maneri. He had preliminarily said he was going to come on the show when he gets back to Baton Rouge. If not, I'm sure Cade Beloso, with the Dattitude magic that I gave him, will come on the show. So there likely will be some sort of show next week before I fade off into the Netherlands. We hope everyone enjoys the game tonight. We'll see you next week on Dattitude. Peace and love, my friends.